Mottley. Thanks again for accommodating us. 1964, heading into Trinidad and Tobago's first Olympics as a independent nation. What was it like for you back then?
Well, Kent, it was a very special time. I had been here for the independence celebrations, and I was very much looking forward. I could see Tokyo as that goal that I'd worked for all these years. But then, to give you some background, I had spent 4 years at Yale with my coach there, Bob Giegengack. And at that time, just before the Olympics, Giegengack was appointed head United States track coach. And he invited me to come out to California to train with the US team. So I went out there and trained with California on the very best tracks and the very best weather to sharpen my edge. And then came the time where I'm in Tokyo and old coach Giegengack is on the opposing side. And I had always been a TT nationalist. There was a half attempt to get me to run for the US, but my mind was clear. I was for Trinidad and Tobago. And at that point, Coach Giegengack says, well, Wendell, I've showed you everything, but now we have to part ways. My job is to get the Americans to beat you.
Tell us about the day of the 400 final. You are on the track. You have a chance to win Trinidad and Tobago's first medal as an independent nation. What was that feeling like?
Well, I had come through the heats and quarterfinals, semifinals very well. I knew that this was a moment of truth. I especially remember that moment in the stadium before the final, where you're in there with your competitors. And there's a certain degree of nervousness as they come and they're checking the numbers on your back to make sure that everything is all right. And then you come through that dark tunnel and you emerge into the light of the stadium and thousands of roaring spectators, and the adrenaline starts to pour. But then once you get into the business of getting your blocks into the ground and so forth, years and years of routine preparation for this moment, and you become extremely focused and everything else just shuts out. I got off to an extremely good start and went around the bend, caught most of my stagger, and was in front for most of that race. I thought that maybe I slowed a little bit too much on the back stretch to preserve energy, came out in front and was just pipped on the tape by Mike Larrabee. So that was the difference, shall we describe it as a between silver and gold.
Oh, when you realized you won Trinidad and Tobago's first ever Olympic medal as an independent nation, what was the feeling like?
One of tremendous triumph and feeling a little regret that the gold had escaped us. That was not to recur until Hazley Crawford's time, but still a feeling of accomplishment that little Trinidad and Tobago had been there in front with the Japanese emperor in the stadium, and that we had performed so well. That this little country was able to come up against the world's greatest. We were very little known, and certainly whenever we performed in front of the Japanese, we were the favorites, certainly over the Americans and the other well-known players.
You now have a team heading into to Japan as one of the favorites, another 4x4 team, very good individuals. How proud are you of these young men and what they have been able to accomplish
Oh
in the last
my
couple of
God,
years?
I can't tell you. Goose pimples. I saw that race at the World Game. I ran it over several times. And I can't look at it and see it in silence. I have to shriek. I have to, and several times over. I take such great pride in them. And to see that stagger, I lived it over. It was the same stagger. The Americans were ahead. We were trying to catch up. This guy comes from, catches up. It has to be at least 3 yards on the Americans. Oh, that's something Trinidad cannot understand, how the immensity of that performance.